Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al-Bob. I am your Sensei Al-Bob, and I am your griot. I'm here to tell you a story. Well, I'm starting a little early, like about 6 o'clock. I had my eyes worked on, so I can barely see anything. And last night, I don't know if we had I think we had a milestone. The show was 6 hours or so long, and had about 60 people watch it, and the accumulated watch time was 36 hours. That's pretty good. And but when I went back and looked at the algorithm, the data from last night, instead of 60 something, it said 50. It was instead of 60 hours or however many hours, that was like half of it. Anyway, but I told you a pretty good story last night, right? And I left off with me in Duke University in 1970, and I was working for a corporation called the Steel Corporation, and they were trying to industrialize the shamanic / paranormal, right? And a good deal of all the real serious scientists who were part of this were straight up Nazis from World War II, right? And they, were probably, it was 1970, let's say 1940 to 1970, that's, 50, 60, that's 30 years, give or take. And let's say if they were in a position of power in the death camps doing research on people. And that's one reason why the Jews were picked on, in that they were a genetically very isolated race. So you could do gene work on these people, and it didn't represent the rest of the world. And so they were kind of characteristics and trying to milk it, kind of how you milk a venomous snake. What was truly interesting, a number of those Nazi scientists were Anunnaki, right? Or from the lineage of the what do they call those guys? The Khazarian mob. Khazarian mob was these folks who were kind of like ISIS, right? And they weren't Islamic, but they actually had no religion. They were kind of land-based pirates, and they were along the Silk Road, coming from the east into Europe. And they would take over little necks of the woods and call it theirs. And as people would travel through, they would, take taxes, toll booth, or just outright kill them and steal all their stuff and rape the women, And this went on for a good, as long as the Crusades went on, this kind of went on. At a certain point, they were close to Russia on the steppes of the Ukraine. The Tsar came down and, basically took his military and stepped on these guys. I mean, these guys were bad dudes, but they did not have an army. They could, rape, steal, pillage, and destroy bands of traveling merchants, but not go up against, severe army. Especially these guys had horses, and I don't know. So the knights captured them and said, "Listen, you're kind of like me. I'm just a little more organized than you guys are. You're the wannabes. So you're scaring my people, and you gotta go. I don't care where you go, but you gotta go. And the other thing that is scaring my people is that you're not Christian, you're not Jewish, you're not Muslim. You are just bad dudes. You have to pick. I don't care which one, but you have to pick a religion and go by that. That way, it's like you can't tell a player without the scorecard. So, they needed a scorecard. So they picked being Jewish, right? And they were the Anunnaki. And they weren't, because the tribe of the Hebrews did not include the Anunnaki, right? They came along. They were like it's like how the Baptists, there's so many different Baptists, right? So it's kind of like them. But this, this pirate group called themselves back, but they weren't. And they kind of hid in that. So they went with the flow of the Jews going into Europe. And where the Jews got their name? Because they're the Hebrew nation, right? The Hebrew tribe, not the Jewish, When they got to Europe, European kings and countries wouldn't let the Jews, kind of become French or become German or they were just Jewish. But they let them be there because they had a lot of bling. They brought a lot of bling with them, right? And I think it was the Russians who called them Jews because they had jewelry, right? And this is one of the things the Tsar did. Here, I'm fighting a war. I need some cash, so I'll let you go. Give me some of your bling. Remember, don't believe a word I say. I'm telling you a story, right? Go check it out. Khazarian nation, Khazarian mob. Right? If you Google that, like, let's see what the magic box says. Love that popcorn. Khazarian mob. No, the little voice didn't pop up, but it did. Let's see. Khazarian Mafia, and its logo is a $sign. It wants me to log in. Well, I'm not logging in. Right. The Anunnaki.
According to Wikipedia, the Anunnaki are a group of deities of the ancient Sumerians, Akkadians, Assyrians, and Babylonians.
Right. So that's the Anunnaki. But anyway, that's a whole nother story, and I don't have the mouth to tell it. Right. You need to go. The Anunnaki, right? The Jewish, one of the Hebrew nations, right? There's Orthodox, Reformed, this or that. Go check those guys out, right? And the Khazarian mob. I mean, it was there, but they wanted me to pay them to tell you what it is. I'm not gonna. I gave her the story, right? So anyway, those were the guys who were at Duke trying to create super soldiers. Hail Hydra. And don't believe a word I say. So go back to last night's show towards the end, and I get pretty specific. But I want to just take a 90-degree turn and tell you what I did for lunch. So I went to one of my favorite spots, and it's amazing kind of restaurant. It's like Archie Bunker meets Sanford and Son, right? And so everyone gets along, and there's lots of folks. So I went in there pretty early and had breakfast. They make a very nice omelet. They never get their pancakes. They suck. And so I, got it. And I'm sitting next to the door, and basically the people kept going in and out, and I was getting cold, and I, don't have any hair, so I was wearing this hat. And because lots of different people are there, they don't let you wear colors or hats or anything that might cause a disagreement. So I had this hat on, and I know the owner really well, and the two managers really well. And the manager, one of the managers came over and said, "Oh, you can't wear your hat, Al." I said, "But it's cold, And she said, "Yeah, but we have to be fair. We don't let anybody wear it. We let you wear it. You'll have, And I said, "Okay." So I took my hat off, and I said, "Well," she goes, "But why don't you move to the way back where the heater is and the door isn't, and I'll take your." So she moved me back, and that was nice. And so I'm back there, and there's a guy, and it's like, that part where I'm sitting is at the very end of where the bar is, the end of the bar, and where the kitchen starts. And, one reason I used to do live chats there because I have pretty good internet, but I don't do it anymore because I don't want to capture anybody doing stuff there that, or what they're saying or any of the above. I don't want to make any waves, right? And they let me write there. They let me stay there all day. And so I'm sitting near the heat, and it's the end of the bar is over, and I got my laptop, and I'm writing on my novel, my new novel, Ear Hair, right? And the guy at the end of the bar was kind of, like, he could see. And I have the screen really big because I can't see anything, and I just had my eyes worked on. So, we could read my screen from like across the room. So he's like reading it, and so I'm typing away. And he goes, "So you're a writer?" And I said, "Yeah, I write stuff." And he goes, "What do you write?" And I said, "Well, I've been writing a long time." And I told him, a little bit of my story, that, I was a itinerant scholar, and I used to get paid, to read and write things. And the guy's kind of enthralled, and he kind of starts asking me questions, and I start giving him answers, and it's blowing his mind. I'm talking about all kinds of things that are interesting. And as I'm talking to him, there are about 4 or 5 other people listening to what I'm saying, right? And then another guy is like behind me reading my novel. And, I don't expect it from this kind of place because it's, not, that. But you can't tell a book by its cover. So all of a sudden, there are about 8 people, and they're asking me questions. I mean, kind of sophisticated political, social, historical, esoteric kind of questions, right? And they're all, like I said, it's Archie Bunker meets Sanford and Son. And the guys I'm talking to are all young black men. And so they're going on, and I read all their poems, and they're like, "Oh, I can't believe that I could read them." And then this interesting 30-year-old or so kind of guy who looks like a black, Jack Ryan, meaning he looks military. He's not wearing a uniform or anything, or he's not a policeman, but he is cut. His body and he has a few scars on him. So this guy has been in the military. He's been in country. He's experienced. Anyway, he kind of breaks right into the conversation and says, this guy, you got to watch out for pointing to me because he is, trying to blah, 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 right? Tell you stuff that, because this guy is really Christian. And as he's going along, I don't, say, no, you're wrong, blah, blah. I don't try to, right? But the other guys who were listening to me are like going after him about what I was saying. And they're doing a pretty good job, of trying to represent what they thought I said. And they made some interesting points, and I didn't say anything. I just sat there and listened. And so they get into a much more interesting conversation than mine, right? And I'm just sitting there, and they're all around me, and I'm sitting there, right? And they're talking about all this stuff, and he's talking about it. And his father was a minister, so he's got that background. And he was, and he said, I've seen things, and, and so it basically and all the white folk who were there having lunch kind of are freaking out that, it's okay. I mean, this is like Archie Bunker meets Sanford and Son, and it's like the place where everyone gets along. And no, this conversation is not about white people at all, but it's about, everything other than, like I said, political, Christian, and esoteric. And so a lot of the white people who are listening, half of them kind of get scared and go to the other end of this place. And it's a pretty big place. But there's about 6 white folk who are listening and starting to realize, and everyone there is basically working class. But, like you can't tell a book by, even working class guys read books, even working class guys. Anyway, so they were listening to this conversation and starting to think that it was like swirling towards what their worldview was. And yes, they kind of put up with black people because this place has been a black-white place, for 40 years. And anyway, it gets to this point where that 6 or so white people get closer, and and I can see in their face that they're like going, oh my God, these black people are just like me. I mean, I knew they were, but I thought because I was white, I was somewhat different and a little more like the rich guys, but not really. And I'm watching everyone's, auras and body language and realizing these people are having mammoth kind of gestalt changes in their worldview, right? So I'm watching this go down, and and I don't say anything. I mean, I kicked this whole thing off with the guy asking, "So you're a writer?" And then I told him all kinds of things, and they were all like, and then I kind of got up to leave because I had something else to do, and it was getting that time. And I said to the guy who kind of took the conversation away from me and took it over here, and then he drove it back to where I was, right? And I said, buddy, I want to thank you for what you did, because you didn't have to stop and have this conversation, but you are true, and you stood up for these young brothers, right? And you really have changed. And I don't know if you noticed, but there are a whole bunch of white people who listen to what you were saying to them and what I said to you, and they're starting to realize that they are kind of like, he like looked at them, and then I got up and, I walked out, and the white people kind of followed me and said, "Can you read our palms?" Now, everyone there knows that I read palms. I've been going to that place for a good 15 years. I'm like the house shaman slash, shrink. People know they can come and talk to me, and I sit kind of towards the back so no one can hear, and they can tell me their problems, and I give them, my little insights. And so people know that, but they never thought this, and it just was this organic thing that I mean, if it wasn't for that other guy who said, "Hey, you got to watch out for what he's saying. He's trying to lead you astray." And then he talked for another 20 minutes and just came right around to what I said and realized that, oh, he just, just because he's white, he isn't the white devil. Oh, when I shook his hand, he then kind of gave me a bear hug. And I said, "So you come here often?" He said, yeah, I have a meal here 2 or 3 times a week, right? It's like because that's the pool hall and that's this and that. And so I said, okay, next time you see me, you should sit down and let us have a conversation. That was, what we just did here. Pretty amazing, don't you think? And he was still blown away by it, right? And before I, he let me go, he kind of stood back and he said, "What are you? Not who are you? What are you?" And I said, "I am Sensei Al Bob." Oh, no, he said, "Who are you?" And I said, "I am Sensei Al Bob." And he goes, "What is that?" Right? So, and the owner and the 2 managers, I've known them those 15 years. So they're like watching this. And the head manager, who, she's like the queen of the place, she kind of followed me out. She goes, "You haven't been here for the last 3 years. We were all wondering what happened to you. And then you come in, and have breakfast and do this." I said, "Well, was that bad?" She goes, "No, it was just," she starts to cry. So that was my breakfast lunch. And that's what I do. Pretty not as amazing as that, but, and again, it wasn't me doing this. It was all of those people who had, just by hearing my stories, they woke up. And they weren't woke, they were awake. And that's when they were like, whoa. And that's when they realized the difference. And that's what's going on right now. People aren't being, and that's why they're using that stupid word woke, is because the powers that shouldn't be are doing they're just hanging on by their fingernails, and they're doing everything they can to make the change. So nobody's here, nobody's chatting. Let's see what time it is. It's 6:06. That's a good time. So I'm going to leave, and I'm going to come back at 7:30. So any of you guys who stumble onto this, and I'm not, it's not live, go come back. I'll be back between 7:30 and 8 o'clock. Okay. And remember, want to get a hold of me at the dudeawake42@gmail. 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 And you want to, I could really use some green energy. So you want to go to my PayPal, right? And I ask who you want it to go to. That's the dudeawake42@gmail, right? And that would really help me, because the end of the month and the first 6 days of the month are when I'm, and I've been on the BOP now for a month. And, when I live out in the woods, I don't spend a nickel. But being on the BOP, driving around, getting gas, had to fix my car. So there are a lot of things that I normally don't spend money on that I have. So I've kind of eaten into my little, safety net there. So anyway, you want to send something? I really appreciate it. the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Go to PayPal, the Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Want to get a hold of me? The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail, right? And any of you amazing people in Hollywood or any place that want to promote this, I got all these novels I've written. I've got all, I got, I don't know, at least 1,500 stories on my YouTube channel here at Dreamy Dreamland. I'm ready to, I never, I worked for the man, right? And they were my clients. But I always served Love's Co-Creation. But I'm ready to, send me in, coach. I could really help you guys, right? Because there is this birthing process, this Venn diagram of the Piscean and Aquarian ages that are like, uh-oh. So you need a guy like me, right? And I've been doing it here on the YouTube to like, hey, here I am. And yes, you got a hold of me and said, oh, we think you are great. We want to buy you. Well, you can't buy me, but you can rent me, And you need someone who will, be sympathetic and be empathetic and speak truth to your waning power, right? Because I just don't want you to crash and burn, because if you do that, you'll probably take the whole planet with you. And it's not going to happen. It'll just be really, really messy, right? And my 3 rules. Doctor, do no harm, so I'm not going to do any harm. And, don't get involved unless you can have a workable exit strategy, that will enable the saving of the innocents, right? And everybody's innocent. Well, all our relations, we're all freaking innocent, right? And, don't get involved unless you can learn something to help make things better, right? So these are all the things that need to be done, and I am your guy, right? So anyway, I'm going to come back on sometime between 7:30 and 8 o'clock and tell more stories, right? Okay. See you a little later on.